What could turn a fleeting moment of cruelty into a reckoning that shakes the soul? The gas station reeked of gasoline and stale coffee, its neon sign flickering in the late afternoon haze. Jake Razor Malone, a lone biker with a chip on his shoulder, leaned against his Harley, eyes scanning the desolate lot. His leather jacket was scuffed, his boots caked with road dust. At 35, Jake lived for the open road, unbound by rules or regrets. But today, something simmered beneath his usual swagger, a restless anger, fed by a long day and an empty wallet. An elderly man shuffled toward the pump, his frail frame bent under a faded army cap. His hands trembled as he fumbled with his wallet, coins spilling onto the pavement. Jake sneered. "Move it, old man," he muttered, loud enough to sting. The veteran, whose name was Henry, looked up, eyes cloudy but kind. "Just need a moment, son," he said softly. Jake's temper flared. Without thinking, he stepped forward and shoved Henry hard. The old man stumbled, catching himself on the pump, his cap tumbling into the dirt. A few bystanders gasped, but no one intervened. Jake mounted his bike, revved the engine, and tore out of the lot, leaving Henry to pick up his coins alone. 30 minutes later, Jake was cruising down a barren stretch of highway, the wind whipping his face, the roar of his Harley drowning out his thoughts. The incident at the gas station was already fading, just another moment in a life of fleeting confrontations. But then, a low, rhythmic thud cut through the air, growing louder. Jake glanced in his rearview mirror and froze. A sleek, black helicopter, a Black Hawk, hovered ominously behind him, its blades slicing the sky. His stomach dropped. What the hell was this? The chopper descended, kicking up a storm of dust as it landed on the highway, blocking Jake's path. He skidded to a stop, heart pounding. Armed figures in tactical gear spilled out, their faces unreadable. Jake's mind raced. Cops? Military? He hadn't done anything that bad, had he? Then, from the helicopter, a woman stepped out. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with a commanding presence and a badge glinting on her jacket. "Jake Malone," she called, her voice cutting through the rotor's whine. He nodded, mouth dry. "You're coming with us." The twist came like a punch. The woman, Colonel Laura Hayes, wasn't just any officer. She was Henry's daughter. She'd been at the gas station, out of sight, filling her car when Jake shoved her father. A decorated veteran herself, Laura had spent years tracking down those who disrespected the men and women who'd served, like her father, who'd carried shrapnel in his leg since Vietnam. She'd called in a favor, and now here she was, standing before Jake, her eyes burning with quiet fury. "You think you can push around an old man and ride away?" she said. "Not today." Jake was cuffed and loaded into the Black Hawk, the reality of his actions sinking in. The flight was short, landing at a nearby Veterans Outreach Center. No jail, no charges, just a room full of veterans, Henry among them, sitting in a circle. Laura's program wasn't about punishment. It was about understanding. Jake was forced to listen as Henry spoke of his service, his sacrifices, the weight of a life spent protecting others. The old man's voice was steady, not bitter, but each word landed like a blow. Other veterans shared their stories: loss, pain, resilience. Jake, who'd never known shame, felt it now, raw and heavy. Then came the unexpected. A young veteran, barely 25, rolled his wheelchair forward. His name was Sam, and he'd lost both legs in Afghanistan. "I was like you once," Sam said, his gaze locking onto Jake's. "Thought the world owed me something. Thought I could take it out on anyone weaker." Sam's story wasn't just a mirror, it was a warning. He'd turned his life around through the center, finding purpose in helping others. His words cracked something in Jake, a wall he'd built over years of running. By the end, Jake's defiance was gone. He looked at Henry, who offered a small nod, not of forgiveness, but of hope. Laura uncuffed him. "You've got a choice now," she said. "Ride away and forget this, or make it mean something." Jake didn't speak. He didn't need to. The next day, he returned to the center, not as a prisoner, but as a volunteer. He worked alongside Sam, learning to fix bikes for vets who couldn't afford repairs. It wasn't redemption, not yet, but it was a start. The road had always been Jake's escape, but now it was leading him somewhere new. He'd shoved a man down, but in doing so, he'd stumbled into a chance to rise. The Black Hawk hadn't just landed behind him, it had landed on his conscience. And for the first time, Jake wasn't running. Yindi.